Hello, I'm Dan.
And I'm Simon.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article and we talk about what we find. Simon, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Daniel, we are talking about Franklin County Jail, parentheses, Benton, Illinois.
Oh. Have we had a jail before? I don't think we have.
I don't think we have had a jail.
This might be our first jail.
Is it our first offence?
Unless one of us has got a sort of Monopoly get out of jail free card, in which case we could activate that and get a different article. I don't think we don't, do we?
This episode will actually just be like 30 seconds long because I will immediately whip out.
And that's all for this week's episode. Thanks so much.
So the Franklin County Jail, because there's a distinction between jail and prison, isn't there? The Franklin County Jail, located at 209 West Main Street in Benton, is the former county jail of Franklin County, Illinois. Built in 1905 to 1906 to replace the county's previous jail, which was built in the 1840s. I gotta say, it's a relatively handsome building. It looks sort of like a small school. You know, it's a red brick building with quite nice, oh gosh, are those Corinthian columns? There's the scroll work at the top, which is Ionian, but then they're on the four corners, the vertices at the top.
Oh, right.
So I don't know. I don't know enough about architecture.
I need to go and consult my Rice's Church Primer, which, as a little plug, is an absolutely phenomenal book if you're interested in classical and sacred architecture, because it's all illustrated beautifully and it's amazing.
Last episode we had 12 months of monastery soups. This episode,
Rice's Church Primer.
In the Danmore is a middle-aged. Well, this is about as far from a church. Actually, well, is it as far from a church as you can get? Because the purpose of a jail is to hold, as opposed to a prison, is to hold people before they are sentenced. Is that correct?
I think so.
Whereas, which I suppose you could argue is the same thing as a church. You know, you go there before you are judged post-death.
Yes. Look, it's a tenuous link, Simon, but I like it. Let's go with it. Let's do it.
The more D&D I do, Dan, the more improv I do, I feel like I get better at this. You know. Actually, tell you what, I had a completely dropping the order of the show for a second. So I played some D&D this week, the week of recording, with the RP Geeks, which is the regular the troupe that I play with, but also Jasper Cartwright. Oh wait, sorry, no, that's not his full name. It's Jasper William Cartwright. I have to remember his middle name, who is a professional D&D player, actor, dungeon master, all that kind of thing.
Gosh.
And it's the first time I've ever played with a professional, sort of, you know, someone who does it as their full-time job.
Yeah.
And I think going into it, I thought to myself, how much of a difference can it really make? Like, you know, we're playing make-believe and we're doing kind of amateur acting, whatever. And oh my word, can you tell when someone is a professional? It was amazing, the difference. It was the equivalent of playing five-a-side football, but then like Harry Kane comes onto your side, and it was literally just get the ball to Jasper. In any improv situation, you do your bit and then you pass the ball to Jasper.
Yeah.
And he worked magic. So shout out Jasper, you were an amazing guest on the RP Geeks.
Is he playing a caster class?
No, he was playing. I still have his details up here. Captain Horatio Obisanya Tyus. This was a sci-fi Star Trek-y Monster of the Week type kind of mystery, I suppose. I was playing another character very much based on Ed Dunn, actually, a French overly flamboyant artistic engineer. And yeah, it was a really fun one. I would say as a one shot, I believe it's going out on our YouTube. Shamini was the dungeon master for it, and I think did a great job. But yes. Just to say, yeah, I felt like I was getting okay at improv, and then I just got massively slapped. No, I wasn't slapped down. I was lifted up by Jasper. Yeah. And actually, that's the point. It's sort of topical. This can go in the description because it's very much SEO at the moment. The Dungeons and Dragons movie is coming out next week.
Yeah, I'm interested about that. Part of me wants it to be what I want it to be. Is I want to watch it and think that was a laugh, that was fun. And it wasn't so much of a laugh and just fun that it was a bit of a crap film.
Yes.
I'd like it just, if it's fun and a laugh and mediocre, I'll be happy. That's fine.
From the trailers, I'm a little concerned because I think that the way that we think of, you know, watching and playing TTRPGs like D&D is very... I don't know, is it British? We just have quite a wry sense of humour about it. Yeah. We're not the kind of like, huzzah, we just defeated the goblin, guys! Which is like, I don't think is, to be fair, what most D&D groups in America think. But I'm worried that from the type of humor that's been in the trailers, I'm worried that's what the studio thinks D&D is all about.
Yeah. See, it's interesting though, because who have they got narrating the film?
Is it Hugh Grant?
No, it's Sue Perkins.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Sue Perkins is the sort of narrator. I'm sure that's right. Hang on, let me just check this.
Furious. Hang on, I'm just going to get
some D&D film. Sue Perkins lends voice to Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure I've seen her, like, clips of her doing her stuff on TikTok.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because Chris Pine's the lead, right?
Mm-hmm. The comedian 53 recorded a special form of narration for the film adaptation of the legendary game that will be used to provide information on key visual elements for blind or partially sighted viewers.
Oh, so she's not the narrator per se. It's sort of a accessibility track. Oh, did you know Auntie Donna have provided voices for this?
Have they? That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the wiki now. Auntie Donna provided voices for corpses for the Australian release of the film.
That's superb.
I have a lot of questions about that, but that's kind of hilarious. I did see they had like a video promoting it the other day, and also people from Critical Role are making appearances. Because my friend Mark Humes, shout out another D&D legend, Mark Humes was at the premiere the other day, and was tweeting like, what should I wear? Should I go for full like role play garb, or should I go for a suit? And I think he ended up going for like a suit but with a cape, so kind of like a halfway house.
Yeah, nice. But
yeah, I'd be up for seeing it. I would be interested to see what they do with it, but I've not got terribly high hopes, I will say. I'm a little bit, I don't know. I've not had a great year of watching stuff recently.
Yes, yeah,
there's
I
just
know what you mean.
Not been a lot that's excited me. Although hopefully I'm going to be finally seeing Everything Everywhere All at Once. This weekend.
I watched it like 4 days ago.
Oh, well, wait. There's a whole section of the show for it, Dan.
Yes, I know. We need to hold on.
Let's talk a little bit more about Franklin County Jail.
Yes, please.
Oh, actually, would you look at that? If I'd literally read the next sentence, it would have told us about the architecture. Architect Joseph W. Sorry, I'm saying this like in a very overly enthusiastic psychoma voice.
Cool your jets. We've got a long way to go.
Tone it down. Architect Joseph W. Royer designed the jail. The brick building features limestone trim, a hip roof with gabled dormers, and a front porch which was rebuilt in 1997.
Hey, good year, 1997. Brilliant year.
Yep, when I turned 7.
When I was born.
I mean, 97 was a pretty good year, I guess, for me. I mean, how many problems could you really have in primary school apart from like bullying?
We had the big Blair government swing.
Oh gosh,
Labour coming into power, and we had the death of Princess Diana. So swings and roundabouts, I think it's probably safe to say.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Speaking of columns. Hang on, where limestone trim, hip roof with a hip roof. Oh, a hip roof is where all sides slope downwards to the walls, right? With a gabled dormer. That sounds like it's also just the fancy way of saying the same thing. Oh, interesting. But the reason when this came up, I have to admit, my first thought when you see County Jail, Illinois. Well, actually, if I say that to you, what do you think of? What's your immediate thought?
What, County Jail, Illinois?
Yeah, County Jail in Illinois.
I suppose my immediate thought is already it sounds like a building that I wouldn't expect it to be.
No.
You know what I mean?
Nothing to do with the film. It's the Blues Brothers.
Oh.
Because that's set in Illinois, right? And it's Cook County, and they are the start of it.
Actually, I haven't seen this film in ages.
Oh, so good. The Blues Brothers. People haven't seen the Blues Brothers. It is a classic for a reason. It's the cast of it is just absurd. Like James Brown, Cab Calloway, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, John Lee Hooker, like bam, 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 musical legends. But yeah, that's all about busting out of jail and stuff like that. Wow, I should rewatch this film.
Yeah, sounds like I need to rewatch it. I can't really remember a thing.
Oh yeah, John Landis is in it. He's like he's the director, and he's also got a cameo. I feel that's such a power move. Like most of the time,
sure.
If you're a director, just be like, "Oh, this is going to be me." Actually,
I'm just going to do this bit.
Especially if you're Quentin Tarantino, and you can be like, "This scene is all about feet.
Yes.
I'm actually going to play every character in this scene,"
as opposed to the slightly more subtle Peter Jackson.
Yeah, like because he's in every one of the. He's in the theatrical release of Fellowship and the Two Towers, and I think he's only in the extended edition of the Return of the King.
Yes, I think that's right, because he's on the boat, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Corsair captain that Legolas shoots because Gimli like nudges his aim.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sorry, I sometimes I think about Lord of the Rings and I get way too deep into it, and I just kind of marvel at the fact that the films exist at all.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Anyway,
So good.
anyway, Dan, before we sort of fully fall off of the wagon of the Wikicast, how are you? It's been quite a while since we've spoken.
Well, we were saying just before we hit record, again, another sort of little insight behind the scenes moment. We suddenly were very concerned that we hadn't done an episode since Christmas. But fortunately, there was one on, did you say the 1st of February?
We released one on the 1st of February. We recorded mid-January, yeah.
Yes. Well, in short, I'm fine. I've been very busy, and I've only actually got back to Exeter yesterday, having been in the Big Smoke in London town for probably about a fortnight. A mixture of sort of social call and hopefully lining up some job interviews and things, which will further accelerate the long-desired move to London, my sort of relocation, which is very exciting. But I had a really, really lovely time. Yeah, so it does feel odd being back in Exeter, having been away for so long.
Because you finished your studies now,
Mm-hmm.
and you're basically in the process of trying to sort a job, right?
Yeah, a job at a firm, basically.
So other than job hunting, what have you been spending your time doing?
Well, it was nice being in London because my partner is in London. So staying with her and just being able to spend more time, because normally we're having to sort of constantly put what feels like putting life on pause, because I can only, she can only very occasionally come down to Exeter and I can reasonably occasionally go up to London. So it was nice to spend more time there. It was my mother's birthday. Big shout out to Mama Moore.
21. She doesn't look it.
I know, it's extraordinary, isn't it? We had a very, very lovely birthday. I ended up going up to Oxford and we went out for a really lovely meal, and it was nice to be home and spending time with my family and the dog, and because I hadn't been back in such a long time. So that was really, really nice. I had some really interesting conversations with folk in London in regards to sort of some networking and jobs and things.
Oh, cool.
One of which was completely ludicrous, and without giving too much away, I was invited to a fairly elite gentlemen's club in London.
So when you say gentlemen's club, do you mean like a dining club?
I mean like a private members gentlemen's club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two different meanings that you could take from that.
Yeah, which was completely lovely and really amazing, and I'm very lucky to have been invited, and that was a jolly night, and I consumed basically my own weight and then some in drink and cigars, and it was lovely.
About 3 ounces.
Yes, yeah, exactly, about a tablespoon. But it was really, really nice, and I caught up with some friends, the Hugo Wickman, I said hello to.
Mr. Wickman!
Lots of old sort of classic Wikicast characters, so that was really lovely. Yeah.
The Wikicast extended universe,
Yes, yeah, absolutely. What about you, though? What about you?
Yeah, so it's been a very unusual and quite a difficult start to the year, because as people would have seen on my social media, on Twitter specifically, my dad's was in hospital for a very long time. He was in for, I think it was 44 days in the end, which was a very difficult experience, because you got used to going in, because I mean my mum went in every single day, I went in almost every day, and you would see people on the ward be there for a couple of days, and then they just they'd leave because they get better, and you'd see this rotating cast of characters, and he was just this fixture because he had this really significant infection that was going on and was being treated with antibiotics, but he also had an ileostomy, so he had a stoma fitted, which shout out to my friend Hannah Whitten. It was very helpful, giving some advice on sort of how to adjust to it, because she's had a stoma fitted for I think it's 5 years now.
Yeah, good long while.
And and he has been now home since, I'm happy to say. But what I haven't discussed on sort of public socials is sort of what's been going on, not alongside that, but I guess the context of what's been going on, which is that this is a terminal illness that my dad has, and it's very difficult. Well, it's very difficult in lots of ways, but in one way it's very difficult because we simply don't know what kind of timeline we're looking at.
Yeah,
we were told on I think it was the 22nd of January that this was now terminal, and the warning then was this could be days, weeks, and that's proved to not be correct. We went through a period of maximum peril where we had a bunch of procedures done that was successful, and he recuperated very well. In fact, the fact that my dad is I don't think I've mentioned it on the pod before, but he's exceptionally fit as an individual. You know, he's run. I asked him this the other day. He's run something like 20 half marathons.
Yeah,
and you know, very very active swimmer and very very active. I mean, he's 68, and he's up until everything went wrong with this illness. He was very very active, and that has helped with his recovery. But you know, at the end of the day, this is a battle that he can't win. We just don't know when that's going to take place, and it's meant that every day you're trying to make the most of, you know, talking to him and visiting and making sure that my mum's all right, because obviously, you know, everything that I'm going through is much more difficult for her.
Yes.
And it's also difficult to plan things. It's difficult. It's one of the reasons why I haven't sort of been on Twitch. I haven't really been releasing YouTube videos. I haven't been giving talks, because I don't want to say that I will do something to a sponsor or to a university and then have to pull out. So we've been playing it very safe, and you know, it's a horrible kind of waiting game at this point. But I do want to say that the support that I've had from the community, so people who, you know, are on the Discord, but also people who are supporting me on my personal Patreon, as well as the Wikicast Patreon, has just been exceptional. And it's meant that I don't have to panic about getting stuff out. I have been very worried about work stuff, obviously, because it's been a very long time for me to not be making stuff. And well, I mean, I made one video, which we can talk about perhaps later, which was this big documentary. But you know, I've barely been making anything, and of course that means that barely been bringing in any revenue.
Yes.
But I've been very privileged because of the support of this community that I don't have to panic. I've got a large runway, if you like, where I can, you know, take time as needed. And frankly, if I don't know how I would have coped if it hadn't been for the support of the community. I have been finding it difficult, especially the past week or so, when I think my dad has definitely taken a bit of a turn for the worse, and you can sort of see this decline happening.
Yeah.
That combined with business stuff, combined with stuff that I still can't talk about, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes as well. You know, it has been difficult, and the idea of having to do all of this and maintain a weekly upload schedule, I simply wouldn't have been able to manage it. So no. I just want to, you know, use this platform, get on the soapbox to say a huge thank you to people in the community who have been so supportive. I really, really do appreciate it. And also, you know, thank you to you, Dan, and to other friends who have been really wonderful and sending messages and, you know, checking in. And even if it's something as simple and silly as sending memes, it does make a big difference.
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because as much as you know that obviously it goes without saying that, and I'm glad that you know and recognise that you've got a you know, a very tightly knit support network around you. Speaking as someone who is in that support network, you absolutely know that there are times when actually, you know, you can be supportive and you can be sending messages, but you can't necessarily be there, and inevitably there will be times where the kind of support that you might need will actually for you in a moment may well be just with a bit of time away, you know, a bit of space away from those other voices and those other, you know, those comments, as sort of helpful as they might be. And, you know, I think, I'm sure, well, it also goes without saying that there's going to be a lot of people in the community who haven't met your dad. I've been fortunate enough to have met him on quite a few occasions, most notably a wedding, but obviously all the time when we sort of live together and they might come down and we go out walking and things. And much as I completely agree with you that he's an incredibly fit man physically, and that has clearly aided in his sort of, you know, recovery from surgery and things. But the thing that really struck me, and I can see it absolutely where you get it from, and that his, you know, sort of emotional resilience and strength of character, much as strength of sort of person, and the more sort of physiological side is just as strong, if not more so. So on the one hand, I suppose it's good to know that he's such a strong fighter, but then I suppose that it does make those, you know, those slight deteriorations all the more stark, because he's, you know, moving down from such a high place of sort of emotional strength. But I was really over the moon when I heard that, you know, the surgery had gone well and he was finally, you know, he was coming home, and I'm sure all of the listeners will be completely in agreement with me when I say that we're sort of, you know, thinking of you and your mum and Pixel Wife and your dad, of course, and sending all the love and support in the world.
Yeah, and well, it's hard because it's simultaneously a universal experience. At some point, almost everybody is going to witness this happen to a parent. You are going to lose your parents. That's just the way that age works.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, from our friendship group, my peers, there are very few people who I know who have gone through something like this, and the few people who I do know, been able to talk to, and it's been a great comfort. But I think it does make it somewhat difficult, I think, for other people to sort of not get, but kind of understand quite what it's like, because the relationship between you as a child and your parent is your parents, sorry, is so fundamental. It's completely life defining. That you come to rely on these people and you look up to them always as this. Well, I suppose if you're lucky enough to have good parents, as I have, you look up to them as this example of what to do and the people who look after you. And to have that relationship reversed it's such a paradigm shift that it's very. I don't know if I can really articulate quite what that's like unless you've gone through it yourself.
Yeah, no, of course.
And it's just the thing that keeps going through my head is that it just seems so dreadfully unfair. He's 68, which it is obviously not young, but it's also not really old. That's an age that you'd hope to get another 10, 15, 20 years. You'd hope that he would be able to meet grandkids and all that kind of thing. And it just the fact that it doesn't seem fair is the main thing that sticks with me. But
I suppose too, I mean, if there is, and I suppose in the current moment, what is key, as much as it is being sort of realistic and fair to yourself, as much as others in your family, about how you're sort of coping with this process. If an initial prognosis was a real sort of, I think doctors often call it sort of tiger country, where certainly within an operation, but again too, when you're talking about things in terms of prognosis, if you've gone through a period of tiger country and actually after these operations there has been he was recovering well, then you've got to sort of hold on to that optimism and, as you say quite rightly, make the most of the time that you have and don't be dissuaded or distracted to make the most of that time and not think about an end point getting closer. It's more of it's just an extension as opposed to something coming to a close.
Yeah, and it's making the most of the good times. It's when things are good, it's trying to sink into the moment and not think about what is going to come. It's appreciating what you have, and it's something that I think I perhaps maybe find a bit easier than my mum. My mum's a very pessimistic person naturally, and I do worry that she is going through this experience, and I'm sure that she is, because obviously I'm only seeing them for a few hours each day, but it's making sure that she is drinking in those moments when times are good and they are able to enjoy each other's company. But
yeah,
I wanted to mention it because it's been why there has been not very much stuff, including the Wikicast, coming out, because frankly I haven't been in the mood, I haven't been in the right headspace to do recording.
No.
And I do apologize if this is a topic that people don't necessarily want to hear about, or if it's particularly traumatic because it's something that you are going through or you have gone through. But yeah, I thought it was too important to not mention. But let's draw a veil, so to speak, over that, and perhaps we can move on with the rest of the show, Dan, where you can recommend a choral piece for me.
And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please. Gosh, well, do I ever have a choral piece for you? In fact, I am performing the said piece tomorrow.
Oh.
It's a piece that you will know. It is a piece that stands out in this composer's standard repertoire. If I was to say sort of hearty Sunday roast Victoriana musical fare, what composer would you think of?
I mean, the first name that jumps to my mind is Stainer.
Okay, so stick with the S and the T, but change the other letters at the end.
Would you perhaps be thinking of... So I'm trying to think of a stupid answer, but I can't. I can't not think of Stanford.
Stanford is correct. If you were to suggest to me a piece that stands out from his standard repertoire, but is still standard in terms of its performance, sort of performative context, but is slightly different, and you will have sung it with chapel choir, possibly in Germany.
Are you thinking of the Magnificat for double choir?
I am indeed thinking about the Stanford Magnificat for double choir.
It's a bit of a beast, isn't it?
It's a heck of a beast. Yeah, absolutely. I've only ever done it once before, and it was a very long time ago. So I actually have a rehearsal at Buckfast Abbey this evening, and rehearsals tomorrow. And then there's an enormous concert of sort of Marian music, and of course ending with the Magnificat text. In that sort of interpretation is going to be amazing. And there's loads of other brilliant music that I could have picked as my choral piece of the week, but I thought the Stanford Mass for Double Choir is great because so many people, especially if you've come from a sort of collegiate university chapel choir context or something it's similar to that, then you will no doubt know sort of, Stanford in G, Stanford in B flat, Stanford in C.
A, the best one.
Yeah, Stanford in A, Stanford in A key, indeed. There's plenty of them. But if you're not familiar with his Latin text setting of the Magnificat for double choir, then I highly recommend you have a listen because it really is extraordinary. I mean, it's very silly, but it's great.
To give listeners an idea of why, I mean, how is it so different? Because, it is a Magnificat, it's the same text, but it is definitely a step above those other settings that you mentioned. But in what way?
Yeah. So the thing that's probably most notable about it, aside from it being in Latin, is that the structure of the piece is very different to a standard Magnificat setting for a service of choral evensong, namely in its length. There are extended themes that are sort of further established through the breaking up of the entire Magnificat text into certain sections, and then you might get a repeated sort of leitmotif theme for the simple word Magnificat, which is repeated consistently throughout. But then as far as the sort of the flavours and colours of the piece, it changes quite a lot. It's quite a varied piece if you think about it from a point of sort of not only sort of dynamic range, but the range of sort of colour. Certainly, it's very, very different. I don't know. I mean, did you enjoy singing it when you were singing with the chapel choir? Or
very, very much. It was that level of difficulty of piece that is really rewarding to sing without being frustrating.
Yes.
When you get it right and you're in that groove, it's incredible. I think that's true possibly of just double choir pieces in general. Once you get into the groove and you're passing the motifs from one choir to the other and you're building over on what the other choir has done, it's just really satisfying.
Yeah.
Really, really liked it. Well, and actually, I should mention it in this corner, I suppose, that Pixel Wife and I we performed our concert together with our choir in Bath a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yes. How was that?
Really great. Really, really good. The reason I bring it up is because we were performing the Rheinberger Cantus Missae for double choir, which was the reason I was brought on, actually, was as a dep to shore up the second choir. And that's a really good piece. Really, really enjoyed it. But the whole concert was good. It was very well received. There was one instant, which I will recount, which was we were doing, as I think I mentioned before, that some quite complex, difficult stuff by a modern composer called Wolfram Buchenberg.
Yes.
And in particular, we were doing his, oh God, are they 4 sacred songs? I think Wir Geistliche Gesange, or something like that.
Bless you.
Thank you. Gesundheit. And the last one of these was the one that we were all worried about anyway. And basically, there was a point where you have an introductory section, and then it's not necessarily a key change, but like a large structural change in the piece. And at that moment, about, I don't know, a minute into that piece, everyone's pitch just collapsed. And the conductor called it to a stop, turned around to the audience and said, sometimes in life you've just got to try again. And we did it again. Turns out, as a matter of fact, that someone's phone had gone off very near the choir, and the pitch was almost, but not quite, what the altos were supposed to be singing. And so their pitch went, and then everybody else's collapsed, which was kind of funny in itself. But what was funny was I was holding my music up, and my watch, I wear a Garmin watch, my watch buzzed. And I looked at it, and this was at the moment when we reset. And it basically, I turned my wrist, and my watch was telling me, you appear to be in a very high-stress state. Here's a breathing exercise.
Wow, yeah. I can absolutely sympathise with moments like that, when pieces just start to become a little too unpicked to be comfortable. And then you've got to really, really fight desperately to stop it.
My watch was like, hey, let's see what's going on here. Your heartbeat's about 240 beats a minute. But anyway, sorry, that was the concert story. But yes, great pick, Dan, for choral pieces of the week. I do really like the Stanford Double Mag.
I'm sure it's going to be really good fun. And particularly, I mean, there's the thing I didn't know about it until I had a look at, was properly looking over notes in preparation for rehearsals and concert. I hadn't realised it was dedicated to Parry.
Oh, I didn't.
The piece. And most sort of tragically, I think, for Stanford, the piece was finished in 1918, but wasn't published until 1919, and Parry had died at the end before the publication. So there is an inscription at the top of the piece, top of the sort of manuscript and the published works, that says, "This work, which death prevented me from giving Charles Hubert Hastings Parry in life, I dedicate to his name in grief." CVS. Which is really, really, and I had no idea until having actually looked at a legitimate copy of it, as opposed to one of the ones you'll find on CPDL that's likely riddled with mistakes anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So really, so it should be a really good concert. I'm really looking forward to it, and I would imagine, because it's probably one of the, if not the most, lengthy, not necessarily most complicated, but certainly the lengthiest piece in the concert, then we will likely be looking at it this evening. So that should be fun. So that's my choral piece of the week. Magnificat for double choir, opus 164 by Charles Villiers Stanford. Yes, Simon, so it's fitting that we've just had a story about a Magnificat, because if the sort of eagle-eared readership may remember that in the last episode we were talking about a story that was associated with a particular setting of the Nunc Dimittis.
By Holst.
A sort of sister piece to the Magnificat. Yes, by Holst. Now, this story involves a certain choral singer who you may know, Simon, because it was me. And you know exactly the story that we're talking about, but
I'm looking at the time, Dan. I think we are. I don't
think we have time, do we? No.
Oh no, we are going to have to move on.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll have to talk about it next week, next episode.
Next episode, okay,
next
brilliant.
Episode, for sure.
So we find ourselves now in Critics Corner, Dan, and in your time that you've been enjoying off recently, in between spending time with your partner and being in London, have you had anything that you would like to critique?
Yeah, I do. So I have been able to finally finish The Last of Us, because my partner and I have been watching that together on an evening, because it makes it a little bit spookier. And having not been able to see her for a while, we were quite a few episodes behind, but we have now thankfully managed to finish that, and I was amazed by it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Pedro Pascal, completely fantastic, and Bella Ramsey, amazing performances across the board. I really enjoyed it. I thought, having never played the game, but that's something I am very, very interested in doing. I just thought it was really beautifully done. I thought the writing was really super. I thought the performances were amazing. I thought some of the shots and the deliberate intention to mirror shots from the game in the television series. There's a really brilliant video on YouTube where you can see them in parallel, sort of one next to another, and it's amazing. But so I completely loved that and thought it was brilliant. However, I'm going to reserve most of my time in Critics Corner to talk about one thing, and one thing in particular, and that is I have finally got round to seeing Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Right. And
I have not seen a film in a long time that has produced within me such a physical, tactile response.
A positive?
I thought it was completely positive. Completely positive. I thought it was I thought it was a brilliant film. Not a perfect film, and I stand by that there is only one perfect film, and that's a very
chicken run.
That's a sort of contentious opinion anyway, especially when I tell you that I think it's American Beauty, which is riddled with complications.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I stand by it. But what a phenomenal piece of art. I mean, the performances in it I thought were staggering. The editing behind that show and how they managed to pull it off, and in the there's moments where I was watching and just absolutely bawling my eyes out at the emotional power that they were able to sort of conjure up and then make me feel every single bit. It was completely brilliant and beautiful, and I loved it, and I can't wait for you to watch it. And then next episode we will have a very, very lengthy chat all of it, because it would be great.
I've been saving up watching it. I've had it on my list for a very, very long time. Several people, including Captain Reed from the community, has been really badgering me to watch it, and it's actually playing at a cinema in Bath this weekend. So if Pixel Wife and I can get into town on, I think it's Saturday evening, we'll try and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm very, very much looking forward to it. As this was an Oscar season that I sort of looked at a lot of it and went, but that's the film that has very much stood out as like, I know that I'm going to enjoy this. I know I'm going to want to watch it. Did you see The Whale?
No, I still haven't seen that, and I would really like to.
I don't know if I want to or not, because I know it's an Aronofsky film, and I know that they're quite horrifying. A lot. If they're not horror, they're horrifying.
Yeah, I would like to see it. I want to see Fraser's performance, but I wasn't nearly as interested in seeing it than I was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, to win 7 of the 11 Academy Awards is extraordinary. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Editing. I mean, just staggering.
Very, very rare that you get a film that sweeps the board quite like that. And in not a in a relatively crowded field. I mean, Tar was the other one that came out this year, wasn't it? That was tipped to win a lot of them. It's a similar situation, I suppose, to Return of the King, because that came out in 2003, which was the same year as Master and Commander. And, it ended up winning 11, but it was winning 11 against quite a lot of good films, really.
Yeah. Prior to the Oscar ceremony, IGN reported that Everything Everywhere All at Once had already surpassed The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King as the most awarded film of all time.
Oh, really?
Which takes some doing.
Yeah, wow. Or is that just because there are more awards available now?
I think it probably is, yeah.
I'll reserve judgment, but it's going to take a lot to dethrone, if you'll pardon the pun, The Return of the King.
So the film was nominated, so Lord of the Rings was nominated for 11.
And it won all of them, yes.
Yeah. And the 76 Academy Awards won all of them. Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
That really is just such an achievement. Like, you're never going to see anything quite like The Return of the King or the Lord of the Rings trilogy again, I don't think. But I did, Pixel Wife and I did actually have our date night last night, and we went to watch a film at the cinema, which was the first time that's happened for a long time. And we went to see a film called Hallelujah, which I don't know if you've heard about, because I hadn't.
I don't know whether I don't think I have.
So it's based on a play. I'm just Googling now. I'm pretty sure it's an Alan Bennett film. Hang on, because it's got...
When did it come out?
I think it came out at the end of last year. Yes, Alan Bennett play. Yes, so it came out at the end of last year. I don't know how long it's been in cinemas, because it's, you put it out at a certain season for awards and whatnot. Oh, it was released in the UK last week.
Right.
But it's basically... I was looking for something to thank Pixel Wife being so generous with her time and sort of helping me, get to my parents and spending time with them and have a very precious amount of time off, because she doesn't get very much time off at all. And so I identified this film as something that she would want to see, because it turns out that my wife's reset button, her Achilles heel, is old people. She finds old people adorable.
Yeah, I get that.
When I saw that this was a film about the closure of a geriatric ward in a small hospital up north, I was like, this has got everything. It's got the north, it's got old people, it's got music as part of it. And I went and turned up to the cinema with her with the biggest box of tissues I possibly could. And they were needed because it made her cry a lot and she enjoyed it. I'm not sure I would say it's a great film. It felt like there was a very good film that was put in a bag and just shaken around a bit.
Right.
There were some very good components to it, but I don't think it quite hung together as a good piece. There's an interesting, well, it's not really a subtext, it's a text of the film about the NHS and how much we should appreciate it, and the fact that it's kind of being portioned off bit by bit by conservative governments. And that becomes very explicit at the end of the film. And there's an interesting, what I think is a metaphor, but it might not be. It might just be, oh God, I nearly gave a massive spoiler for the film. But if anybody's seen it, you'll know what I mean. There's that bit at the end. It could be a metaphor. It might not be. It might just be Jennifer Saunders' character. But yeah, sure. First time I've been to the cinema for a long time, for several months.
I don't know anything about it. I'm gonna have to watch the trailer or something. I do like Jennifer Saunders, so...
Yeah, she's the lead, along with Bally Gill, who plays the Doctor. And then you've got people like Derek Jacobi, David Bradley, Russell Tovey from the History Boys, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so, it's a good cast. There's some good stuff in there. But I'm not sure I'd write home about it too much. But that was the only film that I've seen recently. I have, however, been watching a lot of stuff. I want to give a shout out to 2 recommendations for two very different recommendations. First of all, have you ever played RimWorld?
Yes, I have, but not much. But I am aware.
Barry and Ben from the Yogscast are doing a playthrough of RimWorld on the Yogscast Twitch channel, which in itself is not all of that remarkable. That's what they do. What's interesting about it is they are playing a RimWorld mod. So for people that don't know, by the way, RimWorld is where you're basically role-playing a small cast of people in a top-down view who have crashed on a planet, and you try and survive. And if the playthroughs that I've seen and the playthroughs we've heard about from our friend Hugo or anything to go by, it normally ends up in sort of organ trafficking and, keeping people hostage so you can harvest limbs from them when your colonists start losing their own limbs. And it gets very dark very quickly. But Ben and Barry are playing with a Pokemon mod. So all of the animals that you find in RimWorld normally, things like wolves and fish and all that kind of stuff, are replaced by Pokemon that have their Pokemon abilities from the games.
Right.
So you catch them with Pokeballs, you train them, and they develop like skill sets that you can use to help you. But also their types help you. So if you have an ice Pokemon, for example, if you put that in a room, it makes that room a freezer.
Right. Oh, I see.
And if you have a big Pokemon, you can use it to like haul stuff around. And it's just really engaging. It's been a really, really enjoyable watch. I'd highly recommend it.
Oh, fair. Well, on that note, I have been thoroughly enjoying the Hat Films lads Twitch streams of Vault Hunters.
Vault Hunters.
My goodness, it's
so good.
It's so good. I can't watch the YouTube sort of episodes anymore because I like being able to. I'll watch live when I can, and then if not, I'll just binge the recording session.
Yeah.
And just have it on while I'm working or in the background or treating it like a podcast, because really that is what it is. I mean, there's some great visual moments, but it's just them doing their thing, and it's great. I'm really loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hard agree. Their stuff recently. I mean, their Ranch Sim series was one of my favorite things they've ever done, and Vault Hunters is immediately up there as well. Oh, so good. So good. Golden age for Hat Films at the moment.
Absolutely.
The other thing, which is very different, and I'll only briefly mention, is I have hit upon a new fitness strategy.
Oh, right.
So I signed up to my local gym, which doesn't have a huge amount of equipment, but it's close. So there's no friction to me getting there. And I have been trying to lose weight because I did what everybody does and put a bit of weight on over Christmas, and then everything that's been happening recently have meant I sort of been stress eating. So I've been, trying to watch what I eat, but also going to the gym. And I've discovered a real hack, which is all you've got to do. In my case, this has worked. Disclaimer, is get to the gym, get on a stationary bike, and put an episode of a TV show on that you want to watch, and only watch that TV show when you are at the gym. So your desire to finish, the next episode and learn what happens next, you've got to get on the stationary bike and burn about 500 calories to do that. And I've been doing it with Star Trek. So I've been watching Star Trek Voyager, and 45 minutes at a time, watching sci-fi, and then just leaving the gym. And it's the most enjoyable way I've ever found to exercise. Like, I actively look forward to doing it now, like several times a week.
Oh, amazing.
So it's kind of a recommendation for Star Trek Voyager, which is all over the place in terms of quality. But again, if you're going to watch it, listen to the Greatest Generation podcast. But also, just kind of making exercise fun. Like, I feel like if you make something fun, you're much more likely to do it and turn it into a habit. So, yeah, there you go.
Pro tip. Look at that.
Make exercise fun again.
Love that.
Top lad.
And it's that time again, if we remember the order of everything in this podcast. It has been a while.
What year is it?
Find ourselves... Morty. We find ourselves in Patreon Corner, an opportunity to say an enormous thank you to those who support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/the Wikicast. Without your support, this podcast wouldn't really be able to sort of keep going, really. You pay for our glorious editor, Fergus, and you pay for our vital hosting. Without the hosting, the podcast has nowhere to go. I'm
not sure I'd describe the hosting as vital hosting. I mean, there's nothing about this podcast that's vital.
Well, to be fair, vital might be a slight...
Vital in about 8 quotation marks.
a slight exaggeration. I would like to say an enormous thank you to those who support at top dog tier. And they are Jay Wright, Ben McMurtry, Peter Reed, Codzo, Colin J. Brown, Lexi at Front Desk, Hasse Hansen, Henry VII, King of England and of France, Lord of Ireland, Aaron Jorgensen, Naf Laroque, Andrian with an N, Chan, Ben Caples, Martin Narciso, Christian from the Alps, Lexi at Front Desk's boss, Amy Bonney, Sophie, Brummy Mike, and Carnav. Thank you so much.
Whereas we need to double check the numbers, Dan. How many top top dogs do you have?
30.
Wait, you got 30 top dogs?
No, just pulling your leg. I've got 19 top dogs.
I need to change my filters. I see you've played Knifey Spoony before.
Yes.
You've got 19 top dogs, and I have 18 top cats.
Woohoo!
Once again.
Oh.
Well, I would, however, like to thank the slightly fewer in number but higher in quality top cats. The top cat, of course, of all is Susie, who has presumably been listening to this whole conversation with only marginally masked disgust from the other room. But the people who actually support us at the top cat level on Patreon are Isabella, Lexi at Front Desk's arch enemy. That's a new
brilliant.
one.
This is good.
James S, Anna Reifer, Nathan Flaherty, Kyrene on Caffeine, Simon P, Jack Easton, Izzy CC, Nafi Iftikhar, Christopher Betterton, Dame Valerie III, Layla Medina, Will Jennis Humphreys, Rents Kirk, Oliver Burkhart, Cole Mansfield, and the one and the only Dan Hanvey. I love the Lexi at Front Desk's cinematic universe that the Wikicast has built. It's fantastic. Top lad.
And to close, we arrive in that most glorious of dank, dark,
Sorry.
moist caves that is correspondence.
I like this a lot less now.
We just need to sort of, Fergus, if we could have a sort of slightly echoed effect on voices.
Can we get
sort
some
of dripping?
Yeah, slight dripping
from
there.
sort of stalactites.
I'm just going to walk over to the first email. Hang on. Please put some squelching in there. Yeah.
Well, while you walk over and find that email, Simon, I'll light a fire and we'll get. Let's just see what Fergus can do.
Oh God! Oh, I've just put my foot in a puddle.
Simon, is that a giraffe?
Oh, right. Okay. Anyway, I'm just going to rip this stalactite off of the wall. Hang on. And in here we have a message from Matthew Can.
Amazing.
The Professor, dearest lovely chaps. Further to one's invitation to write in regarding the above televisual programme, subject ghosts, I can wholeheartedly recommend said televisual programme. I hadn't quite grasped the poet Thomas being an on-screen version of Dan, but now you mention it, yes.
Brilliant.
Have you seen any of this, by the way, since we talked about it?
I've seen bits of it, but I need to properly sort of consume it.
It doesn't take long. You could binge it very, very quickly. The characters of the piece, the Professor continues, especially the caveman Robin, have some of the most fantastic one-liners that leave me and Punk Wife absolutely corpsing.
Punk Wife. That's superb.
Who's superb? Robin has some brilliant one-liners like "bad need fix architrave." It's one that everyone sleeps on. Sorry, the Professor continues. No matter what mood you're in before watching an episode, you're absolutely guaranteed to come out refreshed and suitably humoured. Having said this, the beautiful storylines of the Christmas specials are absolute tearjerkers and the writers are geniuses. I do concur. Watch the episodes, Dan. You won't regret it. Yours, Professor Punk Can, aged 10, Prince Louis.
Amazing. Well, we have it on the highest authority. I will surely, Professor, consume ghosts and report back with my findings.
Now, Dan, behind that moss on that wall, if you want to rub that off.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've got another message.
Simon, it's slimy. I don't like it.
Don't wipe it on me. Oh,
yeah, sorry. Well,
what does that say? There's a message here.
Oh, yeah, we've got a... Sorry, sort of inscribed into the rock behind this moss. You think we've exhausted this?
Oh, no, this bit is going to keep on going. It's got more legs than the centipede, this bit.
There's an inscription. It says, news from the front... questions and thoughts on a film. Right, yeah. Well, we've got a message. I'm gonna read the message.
Let me move the lantern a bit closer. I'm so sorry, Fergus.
It reads typewriter noises for the attention of S. Clark and D. Moore. Greetings, gentlemen. Stop. From long-time listener, first-time writer. Stop. Wanted to write regarding the Patreon conflict and give thoughts on a film. Stop. Regarding the last episode, I could not let the cat-dog parody continue one more day. Stop. Consequently, I have begun a pledge at top cat tier. Stop.
God damn it.
March to the sounds of barks, comrades. Together we'll hold back the canine tide. Stop. All right, this gimmick has gone on too long, so I guess I'll...
Stop. It was so close to keeping the balance between cats and dogs, but
Gosh. We have a message here from James that says, jokes aside, thank you both for the hours of non-content that you've produced. At the moment, I'm slowly working through your back catalogue. Oh, gosh, James. You have to buy us a drink first. Having just reached your COVID-era episodes, and they prove a much welcome distraction from my mundane 9-to-5 job, I have a couple of questions plus some film thoughts. A few weeks ago, Simon, you were asking on Twitter for other creators' opinions on P.O. boxes. Did you reach a positive yes or no conclusion?
Yes. So I should have mentioned this actually earlier. Yes, I am now the proud owner of a P.O. box. So I'm going to say this with the I just want to be very clear about this. Please don't send me anything perishable or living or that could possibly rot, because I only check this about once a month. Okay? With that being said, if people would like to send me, or us rather, the Wikicast, some post, you can do so. And perhaps we'll do an episode where we do a mailbag and we just open things that people have sent us.
Well, that would be a good one to do when if perhaps we could let said PO box, if it proves popular, accrue. And then maybe do if you'd like to see our faces, because we've been saying that for literally years and we haven't done anything about it.
Well, if you would like to send us something, then the address is, take this down, Tired Bear Films, P.O. Box 5598, Bath, as in the city of Bath, and the postcode is Bravo Alpha 1 0 Delta Zulu. So BA1 0DZ, United Kingdom. So I won't put that in the show notes in case that gets crawled, by a bot or something. But if you would like to send us something, then there's the address. And I think that would be a really fun episode. If we when we next see each other in person, we will endeavour to do an unboxing. So absolutely. Send us what you like, as long as it doesn't rot.
Perfect. James goes on to say, I, for one, think it would make a great avenue for viewers/readers to bombard you with material to review, critique with Dan on Spongy and Electric, or just to send some odd pieces of fan mail. Failing a personal PO box, what about arrangement to forward things to Yorkscast offices if you could swing it? Well, James.
There you go.
Rewind this podcast and you'll have the address right there. Speaking of the Yogs, have you considered being asked to contribute to a Games Night channel?
Yes, I mean, I've been speaking to Lewis about this for a while, about wanting to do some sort of battle reports with them and some painting content. I think it comes down to them having the editing manpower, because it is a big... Doing a battle report or doing editing stuff, it's a big technical setup and there's a lot of editing that needs to happen. But perhaps now, I mean, this is going to date the episode slightly, but now with the release, or rather the announcement of 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000, which is very exciting, and I've refrained from talking about it thus far, but it's very, very, very exciting. Maybe there will be some more content coming out. So yes, I have been in talks about it, but we need to make something practically work.
Finally, Sam would like to recommend last year's Empire of Light to us both.
Oh, I've heard about this.
It's a romance/drama directed by Sam Mendes and shot by Roger Deakins.
Yeah, boy!
It revolves around the life of a cinema floor manager in Margate in 1980/81. I don't want to give too much else away, just don't expect it to be a simple story. The highs are very heartwarming and the lows are rather not. I'd also quite like its soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Wow! You know what soundtrack they did?
Go on.
They did the soundtrack for The Social Network.
Of course they did.
So that's
okay.
Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. But yeah. I mean, wow, what a superstar team. Them with Roger Deakins, the greatest cinematographer of all time, and Sam Mendes.
I'm going to look into that.
Yeah.
Verily. Best of luck to you both as we plough through the rest of this year, especially on the job hunt, Dan. Thank you very much. My apologies for knackering your top cat versus top dog tie so soon. James S., aged 4.5, Prince Louis.
Wait a minute, Dan. I just remembered we're in a cave, and it's dripping and dank.
Oh yeah. Whoa! We got so into that. We got so into that message. It's almost like the sort of the sounds around us just stopped, and now they're back.
You're a wizard, Harry.
That's weird. That's really weird.
This is Fergus, the editor. Both of you, give me a f***ing pay rise.
And then should we have? I think. Wait a minute. If I scrunch over this gravel, and there's a.
Oh yeah, cave gravel. I'm with you.
Yep. And then wait, hang on. Over this pile of silverware.
Oh, careful.
Yep. And there's this scroll which I'm just going to open now. And it's caught fire. Look.
Oh no.
But from the ashes.
Let me put it out. Hang on. I'll just let me just wee on it. Hang on. If I just do my do my flies now.
Yep.
And there you go. Stop reading.
Wait, hang on. No, from the ashes, a message is appearing, written as if by magic.
Are you sure it's not a phoenix? A piss phoenix, Simon? It's one of those.
A piss phoenix. Oh my god. Oh, it's flapping its wings. Oh god.
Oh god.
Got it covered. Oh, but the droplets of urine. They're forming a message on the wall. From Marianne Berriot. I bet you didn't see this coming when you wrote this email. Greetings, says the message, to those who are clearly not from the most boring province in the world to draw and the hardest to spell, aka Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan? I'm never sure how you're supposed to pronounce it. So we were minding our own business, driving through the Canadian prairies between Regina, Saskatchewan, and Calgary, Alberta, while listening to your somewhat recent podcast on Rubbaboo. First off, I applaud your... Yeah, it was a while ago now. First off, I applaud your pronunciation of the word Anishinaabe, something like that, I think. Well done. It's an indigenous word that's not easy to say. However, we need to talk about how you said, and I'm going to say this as written without looking at the pronunciation notes, Métis and Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, whatever. We almost drove off the road the first time you said it. Métis, which is M-E accent acute D-T-I-S, is pronounced matey. For the love of things nerdy, don't say the S. So, matey.
Matey. Got it.
Now, Saskatchewan is more complicated. If you're anywhere from Canada except Saskatchewan, it's Saskatchewan. If you are from Saskatchewan, and yes, we can tell, it's Saskatchewan.
Was it skate or scat?
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
I'm from Saskatchewan. Apparently I'm not.
Saskatchewan.
Anyways, thoroughly enjoyed the episode, and thanks for making us smile. Marianne Berriot, I'm guessing. Have fun with that matey French-Canadian name. And Asher Kerr Wilson. Hang on, P.S. Because I'm nothing if not kind, it's pronounced Marianne Berriot. Oh yeah, that's what I said. Well, it's like a French name, basically.
Yeah. Nice.
We do appreciate having this kind of correspondence. We really do, because like, if you're not told how to pronounce something that you've only learned from Reading, you're never going to improve.
No.
So, you know, thank you genuinely, and I'm not saying this to be sarcastic, but thank you very much for improving our knowledge somewhat.
Oh, completely.
We do have another message.
We do.
But we will save it for next time, when we will be scuba diving.
We will be scuba diving. We will got a message here. It's not going to be complete fail at all.
A whole hour of that. I'm bobbing up and down out of the water. So, Dan, what you learned about today?
So, Simon.
Oh, sure, like.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, Simon, what have we learned today?
Today, Dan, we learned precious little about Franklin County Jail in Benton, Illinois.
Yes. The more you know. Every day's a school day, Simon.
Yep, every day is a school day. We learned about gabled dormers.
Yeah.
Not much else.
And I did another old man plug of Rice's Church Primer, which again, and I mean this completely sincerely, is a really extraordinary, gorgeous book. And if you're interested in that sort of stuff, then, well, A, what's wrong with you? B, let's catch up. And C, you should get the book.
It's not a complicated list. What else do we talk about? We had a big update.
We had a choral piece of the week.
Yep, we had the choral piece of the week, the excellent double mag by Stanford. We had a bit of an update on sort of what's been going on in in general.
Yes.
And lots of stuff in Critics Corner, actually, including your effusive praise for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I'm very much looking forward to watching.
Totally. That's all for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice, join the Discord, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Ghosts, film recommendations, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com, and packages, real life packages and letters can be sent to the PO Box message earlier. It's somewhere in the podcast. I can't remember exactly when.
He said it 52 minutes into the pod.
But we would, however, in either case, love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole.
And we'll see you next time.
It's a bloody piss phoenix!